what's happening around the world and what's happening here at home.
A very good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. Today is Wednesday, the 9th of August 2023. Bringing you the news, I'm Peruni Karnaratna.
And I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
News First Headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
Challenging the domestic debt optimization plan approved in Parliament in court is a breach of parliamentary privileges. A decision by the Speaker. Supreme Court dismisses petition brought against inclusion of ETF and EPF in the domestic debt optimization process. 3 more proposals to amend the Provincial Council's Elections Act. Advisory committees to be appointed to support governors.
පළාත් සභා ක්‍රියාත්මක වන තෙක් පළාත් ආණ්ඩුකාරවරුන්ට උපදෙස් ලබා දීමට උපදේශක සභාවක් පත් කිරීම පිළිබඳ අපේ අවධානය යොමු වී තිබෙනවා.
Conduct a referendum prior to amending laws, says the leader of the opposition. Uttara Lanka Sabhagaya seeks representation in party leaders' meetings while questioning quorum in parliament. 51% of the population believe that governance and corruption must be fixed to rebuild Sri Lanka. New research report reveals.
News First Headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
First up in news here at home, Speaker Mahinda Yapabewada told Parliament today that the resolution for domestic debt optimization was passed in Parliament and cannot be challenged in any court.
He announced this decision replying to a question raised by Minister Harin Fernando yesterday.
For the implementation of the domestic debt optimization to resolve sovereign debt sustainability has been passed by Parliament. The resolution is beyond the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court or any other court established under 178 Constitution of Sri Lanka and cannot be questioned and or reviewed and or challenged. Proceedings in Parliament shall not be liable to be impeached or questioned in any court or placed out of Parliament. Hence, no court established under the Constitution of Sri Lanka is empowered to issue orders or judgment of any nature against the resolution already passed by Parliament, having followed the due parliamentary process, and any such order or judgment of courts would amount to a violation of item 1 of the Part B of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act number 21 of 1953 as amended.
The consequences of the agreement entered into with the IMF were not required to be announced in Parliament. The government themselves did it. They held a vote on it as well. Now someone has gone to the court against this. They are now attempting to stop the judiciary responding to this.
Thank you. Sri Lanka.
Honourable Speaker, if your decisions can't be followed up, there is a process of clearing standing orders to follow. So according to your decision, let's continue the Parliament session. We can't say anything against standing orders. Judicial matters established under the Constitution or regarding the Constitution or any other law accepted by the Constitution must be implemented by the Parliament. In the 1972 Republican Constitution, the judicial power of the people was vested with Parliament. When the 1978 Constitution was drafted, this Constitution was drafted according to a proposal made by a select committee chaired by the then Prime Minister Ranasinghe Premadasa.
අධිකරණයේ බලය තියෙනවද නැද්ද කියලා අධිකරණයේ තීන්දුව කරයි. ඇයි ඔබතුමා පොර දාන්නේ? ඇයි ඔබතුමා පොර දාන්නේ?
ඔබතුමා දැන් ඒක වැරදි.
අධිකරණයේ බය කරනවා.
If any injustice is done by the government during any procedure, or if anyone is treated unequally, isn't there a possibility to file an action against it under the infringement of fundamental rights of the Supreme Court? The citizens have the right to challenge such actions.
The Supreme Court on Wednesday dismissed a fundamental rights petition filed by the Intercompany Employees Union against the inclusion of the Employees Provident Fund and the Employees Trust Fund in the domestic debt optimization process. After lengthy submissions were made to court deliberated and issued the order.
Parliamentarian Premnath C. Dolavatta expressed his views in Parliament on Wednesday evening.
They are attempting to jeopardize the domestic debt optimization process by creating a conflict between the legislature and the judiciary. They are trying to prevent it by obtaining a court order. What are they trying to do? They are trying to create a conflict of some sort through the legislature and the judiciary. The judicial power of the people is also exercised in a judicial system that is implemented in the name of the legislature. Due to this, no hand can be laid on this power. No one can take over this power. I hope that the judiciary will not act according to the 3% of a party that wishes to destroy the parliament and act according to their whims and fancies in a situation where the country is facing a serious economic crisis.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe informed court that the provincial council election will be held after an agreement is reached on the amendments to be made to the Provincial Councils Act.
The President also presented the 3-year proposal for provincial councils.
3 proposals have been presented. Hold elections under the proportional system, allow parliamentarians to contest the provincial council elections, and increase female representation at provincial councils to 25% or more. We will hold discussions on this and come to an agreement and then hold the election.
The President also revealed details of the program to be implemented until the election is held.
We have focused our attention on appointing a council of advisors to advise the governors of the provinces until the election is held. Provincial heads, chairmen of district development committees, parliamentarians to represent political parties in the region could be appointed to these councils. Also, we propose the setting up of another committee to draft laws. The governor and a parliamentarian appointed should be co-chairman of this council. The governor will exercise the powers of the chairman when executive matters are taken up, and when legislative matters are discussed, the parliamentarian will act in the capacity of chairman. There are 45 provincial council ministries. We could appoint oversight committees for these ministries and also appoint parliamentarians who haven't been assigned responsibilities as heads of these committees. These parliamentarians should be chosen from both factions and not just one party.
The President proposed several programs and amendments to the Provincial Council Act that would fulfill the needs of the people and contribute to the overall development of the nation. These proposals include appointment of divisional secretaries, grant the Provincial Council powers to take action on education services, grant the power on all school educational services, appoint provincial bodies to oversee professional and technical training, grant powers to the provincial councils to establish universities, grant the power to allow innovation in the fields of agriculture and to provide all agricultural services, appointment of provincial tourism promotion bodies, increase the limit on industries of national importance from 4 million rupees to 250 million rupees, since some powers allocated to provincial councils are still being exercised by the central government, rectify those errors and establishment of district development bodies.
Preparation of a 3-year plan by provincial councils in line with the national policies of the central government. The respective area should be included in this plan in a manner that facilitates the central government's development plan. Grant the powers to implement the 3-year plan via the district development bodies, creating a legal environment that allows for local government council members, provincial council members and parliamentarians to work together.
The President also revealed details of the projects that the government expects to carry out with India.
70% of the country's national electricity needs by 2030. One of the key objectives of both Northern and Eastern Development Plan is to harness the region's renewable energy potential through the production of green hydrogen and green ammonia using innovative technologies. This strategy aims to attract investment and could transform ports of Colombo and Trincomalee as hubs for export of green hydrogen. We have already taken steps on creating a conducive environment for the investment and export of solar and wind power, culminating in a memorandum of understanding with India to facilitate collaborative efforts in this area. Adani Group has come forward to invest in the renewable energy sector of Sri Lanka. The Eastern Province plays an important role in naval affairs and Trincomalee should be made into a leading strategic port. It is important that we work together with India when developing the Eastern Province port by having discussions on several programs in that region. Further, we cannot limit the economic activities of this port solely to the Trincomalee district. This should be connected with the cities of Anuradhapura, Vavuniya and Dambul, especially when the districts of Vanni, Eastern and North Central provinces are responsible for the bulk of agricultural production. Since India has a lead to develop industries in the provinces, an industrial zone should be created. The port therefore will also be connected, and we are planning to establish a joint task force for this purpose. I hope that some of the honourable members of Parliament who continue a misplaced defence of the government purportedly selling out the country to a third party will now constructively understand that no country can progress alone. That too, especially in instance of nations emerging from an unprecedented economic crisis as has been the experience of Sri Lanka. It must be understood that engaging in a robust relationship with our closest neighbour India would undoubtedly strengthen our ability towards ensuring mutually beneficial cooperation. You have my assurance that I will not engage in initiatives inimical to the sovereignty and integrity of this country.
A debate ensued in Parliament today following the statement made by the President.
I believe the initial step is to make room for a mandate. All of us can unite and give our consent for such mandate as soon as possible. The public representatives can be appointed through a people's mandate, and along with that, we can discuss about the way forward regarding the 13th Amendment. First, I said to propose the constitutional amendments and other legal amendments, and then we will go for an election. I didn't tell such things, and I don't have a problem with that as well.
No, yeah, you want elections. How can I give you elections when you are not even taking the motion of no confidence? We offered it this week, you didn't take it. When do you want to take it? How can I give elections?
President, you know very well that the no confidence motion can't come in the middle after the decisions of the Business Committee. It needs a longer time than this. First, we need a people's mandate. We want a people's mandate and an election. So the election has to be held first and not last. It's all over the media that the no confidence motion presented against the health minister will be withdrawn. We don't need something like that. We want a 3-day debate, not just 1 day. Do not shout without reading.
We are ready. We are ready.
We will allocate this Thursday, Friday and Saturday for that. Are you ready for the no confidence motion? It will be held on the coming 3 days. When you were bringing in these proposals, the ruling party of the government, the secretary of the Pudujana Peramuna, clearly told you that you don't have the power to bring in such proposals and to not even mention it. I would like to ask you if this is a private proposal of yours, or why should this proposal be approved by the government? Mahinda Rajapaksa is a leader who gave his consent to the devolution of power and who spoke of the 13th Amendment, even though talks of a division within the SLPP is being talked about. It is not something to be hidden. I explained the fact that we had the opportunity to join and express our opinions at the all-party conference chaired by our president with his permission.
Wasn't
the 6.9 million mandate given to the government we brought together with Mahinda Rajapaksa against the constitutional amendment brought in 2017? So please do not try to promote a constitutional amendment that has been rejected by the people. Will the constitutional issues be solved if the power is delegated to the north? What you are doing today will lead to racial conflicts in this country. We don't like that. First, hold the election to protect democracy. You are asking me about Mahinda Rajapaksa. I only informed the cabinet about this. You are continuously telling me to be independent and not work under the Rajapaksas.
When I'm being independent, you are asking me why I'm not working with Rajapaksas. Decide on one and tell me. The real parliamentarians working for Rajapaksas are here. Honourable Speaker, I'm proposing one thing. Regarding this issue, I think that all members of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, not only those who are on this side, but also those who are on this side, should talk to Mahinda Rajapaksa and get a solution for this. I didn't say that. I wouldn't care if you have meet with him and discuss this.
Meanwhile, activities of today's parliamentary session were hampered on 5 occasions today due to the lack of quorum in the chamber.
Parliamentarians representing the Uttara Lanka Sabhage, which is a breakaway faction of the ruling Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, claim that they have been refraining from fulfilling quorum in Parliament since yesterday to protest against an opportunity not being provided to represent the party leaders' meeting.
During the debate on the proposal to raise the national debt ceiling when State Minister of Finance Ranjit Singh Balapitiya was addressing the House, the issue of quorum arose today.
There is no quorum to continue this debate. We said we would do this until we are granted a representation.
Honourable Minister, please continue.
This is a very disappointing situation. There is no quorum in Parliament. Please ring the bell.
Honourable Government Whip. Yep.
On the day of the next Business Committee meeting, we will allocate half an hour for the parliamentarians to have lunch. The committee will be dismissed at 5:30 p.m. No extra time will be given. Otherwise, there will be no time for the parliamentarians to have lunch.
Honourable Minister, please continue your speech.
While the State Minister of Finance was expressing his views, the issue regarding quorum was brought up again.
Even if the bell is rung, there is still no quorum in Parliament. The advisory committees are convened on the same days as the Parliament. We have to be present there as well. We have 13 parliamentarians with us as an independent group. There is no representation of us in the Business Committee. Both the leader of the House and the opposition leader agreed that we will be and should be granted a representation in the committee. However, nothing has been done in this regard. This is a peaceful way of protesting. It is the responsibility of the ruling party to maintain quorum. When will this injustice be corrected? We won't bring this matter up from that point onwards. Parliamentarian Vimal Veeravansa does have a point, and something needs to be done in that regard. However, the word spreads that there aren't even 10 parliamentarians, when in reality there are 72. Please pay attention to this and bring in a solution, amendment, or at least a regulation. At least those who are present in Parliament could do something in this regard.
Thank you.
If we are not included in the Business Committee, we will have to keep bringing up the quorum issue.
A new survey by Verite Research has found that the majority of Sri Lanka's public do not believe that the Aragalaya led to the wishes and aspirations of the people being fulfilled.
This survey suggests that 1 year since protesters vacated Gore-Face Green, 51% of the people believe that governance and corruption must be fixed to rebuild Sri Lanka.
A new survey by Verite Research highlights that the appointment of a new Prime Minister, a cabinet of ministers and the resignation of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa were some of the important events which took place, but approximately 60% of the public believe that the Aragalaya did not result in aspirations of the people being fulfilled. To the question, do you think the Aragalaya led to the wishes and aspirations of the people being fulfilled, 60% responded with mostly no, 11% with mostly yes, while 29% said they had no opinion. A majority of the respondents, that is 51%, believe that it is necessary to fix corrupt and bad governance. 34% desire change in the economic system, and 15% consider it necessary to give priority to stability over democratic space.
Be the first to know about the biggest stories as they break. Subscribe to News First English News Alerts. News First, your trusted English news channel.
News First with the people.
News First. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
few projects by Government to uplift the rural communities of Sri Lanka. Foundation stone for a water purification project at Sinipura, Kantule. Sanitation project for Silver Candy School in Nuwara. Installation of an elephant fence at Mahinda Primary School in Hatuwava. Purified water for the people of Yedirawava. Foundation stone for a water purification project at Kurabe Lankadawala and Radhapura. Government for the people, by the people.
Welcome back to the news. Meanwhile, in more local news, farmlands in Chandrakavava, Ambilipitia, nourished by the Udavalava Reservoir, had received water today. Meanwhile, the water capacity of the Samanalavavu had dropped to 9.1% after steps were taken to release water from last morning onwards.
This is a paddy field in Chandrakavava, Ambilipitia. Water released from the Samanalavavu last morning reached these fields today.
Water was released yesterday. We received water today. We are trying to save 50% of the field. The other half is completely destroyed. We are toiling hard to save what is left.
Since the release of water from the Samanalavavu commenced at 2:30 am last morning, the water level of the Udavalava Reservoir has only increased by 1.3%. By yesterday, the right canal of the Udavalava Reservoir had been releasing 289 cubic meters of water per second, while the left canal was releasing 196 cubic meters per second. The release of water should be increased to 700 cubic meters per second in order to fulfill the water requirement of agricultural lands. The Mahaweli authority said it expects the release of water to reach that intensity by tomorrow. The Satyagraha launched by farmers of the Valava zone demanding water for their fields continued for the 17th day today. They claim the Satyagraha will not end until all farmlands receive water.
If it takes 20 days, these cultivations will be completely destroyed. This is what happens when inept individuals who do not know a single thing about agriculture are appointed as ministers.
Our cameras captured the fate of a paddy field in Samarakonvavu, Siribopura, Hambantota. Struggling farmers continue to seek methods to save their cultivations with the water that is left in the Vavu.
This is our attempt to obtain the last bit of water in the Vavu. This is the last Vavu in the Mahaweli program, nourished by the Udavalava Reservoir. All the water is released from the Samanalavavu. It needs to flow from the Udavalava Reservoir to the Kiribban Vavu, then the Andhara Vavu and another Vavu. By the time we get water, we will not require water. If we do not have water now, there is no point in getting water after the 25th. It will take at least another 10 days for us to receive water.
Maize cultivations in many parts of Hambantota have dried up completely. Decisions on water management and other crucial factors for the Yala and Maha cultivating seasons are made during the Mahaweli Water Management Committee meeting. The relevant committee meeting concerning the current Yala season had been held on the 23rd of March, headed by the Minister of Irrigation, Roshan Ranasinghe. During the meeting, the Natural Resources Management Centre of the Department of Agriculture had revealed that a reduction in rainfall could be experienced. However, in the end, a decision had been reached that water can be provided until the 30th of August. It is based on this decision that farmers had ploughed their fields.
I presented this proposal to Cabinet on the 17th of July. I reiterated it during a Cabinet meeting on the 2nd of August. When there are delays in making decisions, there will be an impact. It cannot be challenged. That is why we have to compensate. The CB says power must be purchased. Power purchasing must be done because of shortfalls in our management.
Meanwhile, the Ceylon Electricity Board says the process of purchasing power from the private sector has commenced. General Manager of the CEB, Rohan Seniviratna, said he cannot accurately state how the purchase would be made. He went on to note that power can be purchased from the power plants in Ambilipitia and Matara. Another generator at the Lakvijay power plant in Norotchole became inactive yesterday subsequent to the release of water from the Samanalavavu. With two generators of Sri Lanka's main power plant becoming inactive, the Lakvijay power plant currently contributes only 270 megawatts of power to the national grid. According to data from the CEB, generation of electricity through hydropower has to be increased to 43%. But the water levels of reservoirs feeding the main units of Mahaveli, Lakshapana and Valave are at worryingly low levels. Power generation at the Samanalavawa power plant is currently happening at full capacity but can only be operated for another 7 days. Hence, in order to provide electricity to the southern province, power should either be purchased from the private sector or the new transmission line from the Polpitiya power plant to Hambantota, spanning 150 kilometers, must be completed. However, a decision is yet to be reached over this portion in Siripagama Ratnapura that is hindering the process of establishing the transmission line. Meanwhile, the complaint lodged by the All Ceylon Agrarian Federation at the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka on withholding the release of water from the Samanalavawa was taken up for investigation today.
One key factor came to light during this discussion. That was, this catastrophe came about due to the tug of war between the minister in charge, officials of the CEB and other responsible officers. It also revealed that their incompetence led to this destruction. We will file a case at the Supreme Court next week with all the farmers who were affected by this.
Officials from state institutions, including those from the Mahaveli Authority who arrived at the HRCSL today, left without addressing the media.
Officials of the Department of Meteorology spoke to the media today on water management practices given the dry weather that has been forecast over the next few months.
Officials from the Met Department, Disaster Management Centre, National Building Research Organisation, the Mahaveli Authority, the Irrigation Department and Ministry of Power and Energy participated in this briefing.
During this year's southwest monsoon season, which exists from May to September, rainfall was not experienced in the central hills of the country compared to previous years. Therefore, areas surrounding power plants did not receive adequate rainfall. The other factor is, during the southwest monsoon, rainfall experienced in other areas is less because it only affects provinces such as Western, Sabragamua, South, Central and Northwestern. However, our analysis shows that we can expect an increase in rainfall during the months of October, November and December. Usually during this period, a dry outlook in the weather is normal and natural. However, we have noted that there has been a decrease in rainfall received in the areas in the vicinity of power plants. Dry spells were never politicized in the past. Unfortunately, it has happened this year.
An expert report on the recent health-related incidents in Sri Lanka was submitted to the Ministry of Health.
The committee appointed by Sri Lanka's Health Minister to investigate recent deaths in government hospitals presented its final report to the ministry on Tuesday. Health Minister Kehelia Rambukwella posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, that due to doctor-patient confidentiality, the full report will not be disclosed. The report notes that out of the 6 cases analysed in detail by the committee, 5 met the criteria of anaphylaxis or anaphylactic shock. It notes that among the 5 patients who had anaphylaxis, the casualty assessment using WHO UMC casualty assessment criteria categorized 4 ADRs or adverse drug reactions as likely due to the suspected drugs. However, the report noted that comprehensive quality testing reports of the suspected drugs were not available at the time of the report. Sri Lanka's Health Minister Kehelia Rambukwella appointed a 5-member committee to conduct a full investigation into recent deaths in government hospitals in July 2023. In recent months, several deaths were reported in Sri Lanka's government hospitals. They were allegedly caused by substandard medicine. The committee, headed by Chandima Jeevandara of the University of Sri Jayawardenepura, comprised experts with extensive knowledge and understanding of medicine, nursing and allergies. Health Minister Kehelia Rambukwella noted that he was awaiting results of quality tests of the reported drug after thorough independent exam by NDQL, a laboratory under the NMRA. He said he discussed with Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe to set up a World Health Organization funded Benchmark 4 lab to qualitatively expedite such queries.
ආසාත්මිකතාවය පිළිබඳව අධ්‍යයනය කිරීමට පත් කරපු කමිටුවට
Most of these recommendations focus on the errors that occur during the use of the medicine after it is brought to the country. The reason for that is that even this committee does not have the ability to inquire into the testing phase that occurs before the drugs are imported. If we allege that a drug is substandard, we have to then check whether it is so via a laboratory test. Since this committee is not a committee with a facility of laboratory testing, they are not in a position of providing recommendations regarding the chemical elements of the drug.
අපේ ඖෂධ නියාමන අධිකාරියේ තත්ත්වපාලන රසායනාගාරය හරියට ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්න ඕනේ.
The Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has decided to reduce the statutory reserve ratio.
The Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka decided to reduce the statutory reserve ratio applicable on all rupee deposit liabilities of licensed commercial banks by 200 basis points from 4% to 2% with effect from the reserve maintenance period commencing on the 16th of August. This decision was taken with the view to inject liquidity to the banking system and further reduce market liquidity deficit on a permanent basis in line with the current monetary policy stance of the central bank. An accident where a container collided with a train at the Vilvatha railway crossing in Mirigama disrupted train journeys on the main line this morning. Now, train journeys along this route are still limited to one track.
An office train travelling from Polgahavela towards Colombo met with an accident this morning at the Vilvatha railway crossing in Mirigama. A container carrying a stock of fertilizer from Mirigama towards Giriulla was halted at the railway crossing where the train collided with it.
I was on my bicycle coming towards Vilvatha passing Mirigama when I saw a massive box with smoke coming out of it. Turned out the container had halted on the railway track as the train was coming. The train then collided with the container and several other vehicles that were around.
Our correspondent said that since the signals in the railway crossing were not in operation, the container travelling from Giriulla entered the railway crossing, and at the time another container travelling from Pasyala had arrived from the opposite direction. Due to the narrowness of the road, the driver had not been able to move the container from the railway crossing. The engine of the said container was switched off, and at that time the driver had tried to restart it but had failed and had immediately exited the vehicle. No one was injured in the accident, but the container and locomotive were dealt severe damages. Following the accident, there was a heavy traffic disruption in the area, and the Department of Railways said that due to this, several main train journeys were also disrupted. As a result, many office train journeys were delayed this morning.
Day 5 of the second leg of the LOLC Divi Savia program got underway today, centering in the Kandy district.
LOLC Divisavia distributes necessary school books and stationery to the school students of Sri Lanka. This worthy initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC group and the Ministry of Education. During today's program, school books and stationery items were provided for students of the Madhuba Bandara Primary School in Pilimatalawa, falling under the Kandy Education Zone. Books were distributed to students of 6 schools in the area. Meanwhile, school books and stationery items were provided to students of the Hidaulla Junior School, Abanwala Junior College, Piligalla Junior College and Hendenia Muslim College as well. Students from the Kadugannava Tamil College, Maligathanna Primary College, Urupola Sri Susil Primary College were among the other schools gifted school books and stationery items. The objective of the LOLC Divisavia program is to support the Sri Lankan student population to achieve their future goals.
And with that, we wrap up Primetime News for tonight.
Thank you very much for watching. Take care and good night.